Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome back to Podcastage 2, aka The Deuce. I'm back to drop another hot deuce on you, and this is something that I have never done before because I feel as though this is crossing a boundary to offer advice when it is not warranted, when it is not requested. However, this is me being selfish. There's a podcast that is on YouTube and audio called The Iced Coffee Hour. It is hosted by Stephan, and I really enjoy the show. But there's an issue that I have with the show, and it comes down to production. It's that they don't do anything to mitigate the plosives. In case you don't know what plosives are, that is what happens when a gust of air hits the diaphragm of the microphone and creates this really loud popping and low-end energy. So I will go ahead and demonstrate this. Please bring pizza pronto. It's a terrible sound. I absolutely hate it, and on this podcast, there does seem to be quite a bit of it because they handhold the Rode NT1 sometimes, or they have the NT1 right in front of them without any kind of pop filter or windscreen, so they end up with a lot of plosives in the recording. So Graham, if you're watching this, consider this some free advice for you. I hope it doesn't come across as rude or disrespectful or overstepping some boundaries. I'm just trying to give you some input to help you offer a better final product for your listeners. I captured some audio from the latest release of their show. I will go ahead and play it for you, and make sure to listen for P's when somebody is speaking. Episode, podcast, listen for that. And listen in the low end. Listen for gusts of air hitting the microphone.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made. Welcome back.
You can really hear the air leaving their mouth and hitting the diaphragm, and that is very distracting. And if you have speakers, if you have a subwoofer, or if you have very bassy headphones, it's going to be quite distracting. I have two solutions for you, one being a paid solution, but because I know, Graham, you are fiscally responsible, I have a free solution for you. We'll start with the free solution, and this is using an EQ in any kind of recording software. If you have an audio engineer, if you have a podcast producer, and they have some recording software, they will have this. In Logic Pro, this is just called a channel EQ. Let me open this up. And up here in the EQ, you have a little roll-off section. You click that. And I have this set to 130 hertz at 18 dB per octave. Now, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We're not doing anything fancy. Let me play it for you now and listen to those same segments, episode, and podcast. Listen to the P's there.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
Right away, you can tell that it is a huge improvement. You don't have this sound trying to drill its way into your head, trying to explode your eardrums, because we've removed a lot of that low-end energy. You do still hear a little bit of a gust of air hitting the diaphragm, but it removes a lot of the effect, the negative effect of a plosive. That is the free solution, and it does affect the tone of your voice because we're doing such an aggressive high-pass filter. Typically, I would do this around 50 hertz because that will maintain a lot of body to your voice. But because we have such a serious issue with plosives, I think we should be a bit more aggressive and err on the side of caution to get rid of those. That is solution one, free of cost, easy to do. Anybody can do it. There you go. Let's jump to the paid option now. And this is going to be less popular because it costs a lot of money. And that option that I have is iZotope RX7. That is iZotope RX7. It has plosive removers. It has de-essers. It has background noise removers. It has everything that you need to fix up some bad audio. But I will go ahead and play it. This is just using a preset. This is using the light plosive removal. Let me go ahead and play it for you.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
And the difference that I hear between the high pass filter, which is the free option, and the plosive remover is they are both removing a little bit of that low end, a little bit of that body, that weight to your voice. But at the same time, the deep plosive remover is also removing that texture of the air hitting the diaphragm. So it doesn't even sound as though there was a plosive. While with the high pass filter, the EQ, you are getting rid of that low end energy, but you still have a bit of that texture. You can still tell that there was a plosive there. Now I'll go ahead and play the raw audio again, the EQ'd version, the high pass filter, then the raw audio again, and then the plosive remover. Raw audio.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
And this is the high pass filter.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
Raw audio again.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
And with the RX7 plosive remover.
Welcome back to the 64th ever episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. My name's Ilya, and the podcast so far has made.
And there you go. I hope that was useful, and I hope that didn't come across as a dick move. I just really like the podcast, and the plosives are always very distracting for me, so I wanted to offer some input and maybe help Graham's audio producer out, or if it's Graham doing the production, help him out and give him a couple of tips or tricks on some free stuff or some very expensive stuff to do to fix that issue. Another thing that I would recommend for the show, other than having an EQ or doing post-processing, would be to get a pop filter or a windscreen. I understand you may not want a big honkin' thing like a standard pop filter. These are going to be the best though. You could get something that clips right on top of the NT1, and that will help a little bit with it. You likely still would get some of those plosives, but it will reduce it a little bit, and it won't end up blocking the face. Or if you get one of those wind socks that goes right on top of the NT1, I think Rode sells them, you could get one of those, and that will reduce it as well. All right, that's all I wanted to do. Just a completely selfish endeavor. I guess you could call this, I'm going to title this something clickbaity like Graham's podcast, Confronting Stephan about his plosive problem. That's gonna come across like a complete dick move, but gotta do what you gotta do. All right, I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.